Hey there, and thanks for clicking on this video. Of course, there's a lot of absolute crazy stuff going on. It was a busy day. Don Lemon got arrested. I know some people out there are probably like, yay, but really, when journalists get arrested for literally just reporting, it's not a good thing. Two, there are rumors we may be striking Iran soon. That would be great. Awesome. Massive Epstein file release with a lot of very interesting things in there, which I'll probably be going through later on in another video. And I'm sure there's something else. Oh, yes, all the immigration stuff going on. Pursuant to that, no, this isn't an Epstein video. No, this isn't about Donald Trump. No, this is not about Don Lemon, the First Amendment, anything going on in Minneapolis or any of those things. Instead, this is something that is going so far under the radar that someone has to do a video about it. It's necessary. Otherwise, this stuff doesn't get, just doesn't get into the even infosphere. So I've mentioned before that I'm actually really do appreciate Representative Thomas Massie. We're ideologically opposed on a lot of things, but in general, I don't dislike the guy. However, I do think he is epically wrong on something he is pushing today. And that is signing on and writing an amicus brief to the U.S. Supreme Court on amending birthright citizenship. What is birthright citizenship, you may ask? Birthright citizenship is the term used for the idea that if you are born within the jurisdiction of the laws of the United States, specifically the Constitution, then you are a citizen. This is held through the 14th Amendment and a bill passed 1970s, I think, called USC 1401, and the provisions therein are Section 301. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because House Resolution 569 has been introduced to Congress, to the House of Representatives, and Thomas Massie is signed on as a co-sponsor for this bill. And what this bill does is rather insidious, right? Because it's not, while they claim that this would just be applicable to birthright citizenship, or as derogatorily termed, anchor babies, it does something a little different than that. Here's the text of the bill. And as you can see, it's a pretty short bill. It amends Section 301 of the Immigration and Nationality Act. This act may be cited as the Birthright Citizenship Act of 2025. Here's where it gets sneaky, to put it mildly. The first thing it does is replace in the USC 1401. It just adds this in general before the term the following. We'll get back to that in a second. It also redesignates subsections A through H as paragraphs 1 through 8, respectively. That's just modernizing the language of the law or the act. Then it goes a little bit further and it gets really sneaky because it just adds a definition at the end of the bill, of the law. Just a minor change, right? It says it adds a definition. Acknowledging the right of birthright citizenship established by Section 1 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, a person born in the United States shall be considered subject to the jurisdiction of the United States for purposes of subsection A1 if the person is born in the United States of parents, one of whom is a citizen or national of the United States, an alien lawfully admitted for permanent residence in the United States whose residence is in the United States, or an alien with lawful status under the immigration laws performing active service in the armed forces. Applicability. Now, this is kind of a salve to the whole thing, in that it's not grandfathered, so it's not retroactive. It just goes from passage to, ahead. So anyone born after that does not have a parent who is a U.S. citizen will not be considered a U.S. citizen at birth. Okay, all of this seems pretty innocuous so far. But now we're going to go to the text of the Immigration Naturalization Act. So this is the law that they want to amend. And remember those changes. So here's the section where they put, in general, the following. So they put an ambiguity in there. It's pretty clear language in the law as it currently stands. The following shall be nationals and citizens of the United States at birth. It's very clear. There's no wiggle room. Instead, they're going to amend it to put wiggle room in it, to say in general. Okay. Now we're going to go all the way down here to the definitions, and that is where they put the jurisdiction part. And why is the jurisdiction part important? All right, because the jurisdiction part will set legal precedence as an attack on the 14th Amendment. Because the 14th Amendment is written in very clear language, very plain language. We'll go there right now. So here is the part of the U.S. Constitution that this law or this bill is aiming to attack. It's trying to use an amendment to an existing law to establish ambiguity for the Supreme Court to rule and kind of attack this part of the 14th Amendment. And it is this part right here. It is attacking the idea that of who the jurisdiction of the Constitution applies to. Currently, it is this: all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. All right. It is this language right here that gives everybody, no matter who they are or what they do, constitutional protections. It gives them their First Amendment, it gives them the Second Amendment, Third Amendment. All our constitutional rights are established and protected by this section right here. And that is the idea that anybody within the jurisdiction of the United States is subject to the protections of the Constitution. Now, we're going to go back to that. Keep this in mind, because this bill that they're introducing attacks this very premise and tries to put limits on exactly what the jurisdiction of the United States means. It's this highlighted section right here. It's this little paragraph in this innocuous sounding bill that is a direct attack on our 14th Amendment privileges. The idea that it doesn't matter who you are or what you are, just plain language, if you're in the geographical jurisdiction of the United States, then the Constitution applies to you. The Bill of Rights applies to you. They're trying to make that negotiable. That's what that definition does. It makes it, well, what does jurisdiction really mean? I mean, does it apply to non-citizens? Does it apply to, it's this little thing that can cause the Constitution to be negotiable or only applicable to some people and not others. That's why this is so insidious. That's why I hope it never gets passed, because this is direct assault on the Bill of Rights. And why would they want to attack who is in the jurisdiction of the United States? I've noticed multiple times through comments in my video, through conversation with others, that there just seems to be a lack of knowledge on the Constitution itself. And this is very troubling, because the 14th Amendment is written in very plain language, and it's very short. It's not that hard to look at. It's like a couple paragraphs, and it is written in very plain language of who the Constitution applies to. And I have heard there's through like Nick Fuentes and his supporters that come into the comments whenever I do a Nick Fuentes video, that somehow the 14th Amendment is negotiable. All right. The courts don't find it that way. But there seems to be this idea that if you're in this country illegally or you don't enjoy certain privileges and status, that the Constitution doesn't apply to you. Due process doesn't apply to you. And that is just not the case. The 14th Amendment makes it very clear. Anyone in the jurisdiction of the laws of the United States are subject to the constitutional protections that we all enjoy. It's plain as day. This bill attempts to attack that post facto, right? It's trying to make the idea that illegal immigrants and people just here living but aren't citizens are not necessarily allowed constitutional protections. It's trying to enshrine that idea, or at least make that idea that is out there fact. It's trying to make that a fact. And we have to oppose that, because once the Bill of Rights become negotiable, once the idea of who the constitutional protections apply to, it is a very short step from there to decide, well, they don't apply to this person and they don't apply to that person. That is the reason the 14th Amendment was passed in the first place. It's one of the Civil War amendments. It was to enshrine the idea that nobody could be denied constitutional protections because of their religion, because of their race. It's just a blanket. If you're in the United States, the Constitution applies. There's no negotiation. There's no wiggle room. It's in plain language. And I say plain language a lot because I hear common sense a lot. I'm hearing, oh, that's just common sense. Or, illegal immigrants aren't subject to constitutional rights. That's just common sense. No, this is common sense. The Constitution is common sense. They wrote it a certain way for that very reason. They didn't allow the Bill of Rights to be subject to a government or people. The idea that the Bill of Rights could be changed or modified or negotiated or selectively applicable. They rejected that idea by making him our divine rights. The divine rights of citizens is essentially what the creators made with the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. It's so no government can take those away. And especially not a bill like this that tries to weasel it out, that tries to poke holes in it. So I really hope this bill gets voted down. I really hope honestly, I really hope it never comes up for a vote, because the idea that something like this could pass is horrifying, especially given the environment that we live today. Thanks for watching this far. I hope you learned something. If you disagree with me or you have some type of argument, which, given the fact that it's literally the fifth grade English is what the 15th Amendment is written in, I certainly hope there's no argument on what that means. But in case there is, feel free to drop a comment. Please hit like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Be safe.